Hi, everyone.
Hello. Today's topic is, why is it so hard to stop feeling bad?
Yes, good one.
And more
You
important,
left the speaker on. That's okay.
and more importantly, some things that we can do to get ourselves out of that bad feeling state.
Right. Yes. So the reason, so we would tell you why it's so hard to stop feeling bad, and then
Mhm.
some things you can do to pull yourself out of it. So the reason it's so hard to stop feeling bad is because, as we've said before, stress chemicals are stronger than feel-good chemicals. And by the time you realize you're feeling bad and you try to stop feeling bad, it's too late. The stress chemicals are already really strong in your system, and then it's really
Mhm.
difficult to pull yourself out. The earlier you catch it, the
Mhm.
less, the lower the volume of those stress chemicals, and the easier it is to pull yourself out.
So just, 30 seconds, the physiology
Mm-hmm.
behind that is that um, the the brain becomes aware of some sort of a trigger,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a thought or a feeling that is there, that is, in essence, it's just the firing of neurons in a neural network, and that is prompting a signal being sent to the limbic system, the hippocampus, the amygdala of your brain, and producing signals, chemicals, and that are producing those feelings and sensations in your body. And when we become aware of that bad feeling, those negative feelings,
Mm-hmm.
that process is already engaged.
Right. So the stress chemicals are already pumping through your system. So that's why it's so hard to, and because they are designed for
Mm-hmm.
survival, they're really strong, they're really hard to ignore. So um, I started to doing zero tolerance a few years ago now, which means the slightest bad feeling or thought, negative thought or feeling, I catch myself immediately. Now we tend to think, oh, I'll be okay, or it'll go away, or I'll just finish doing this. And what's happening is every moment, the increasing volumes of stress chemicals are being pumped into your system. So the
Mm-hmm.
longer you leave it, so it's like jumping out of an airplane. Once you've jumped, you're on your way down. That's basically it. You want to catch yourself before you jump. So, with me, the example I've used is because when I created this way of thinking, I was struggling financially, and I thought, right, so I'm going to use zero tolerance, and I've got a very literal brain. So
Mm-hmm.
zero means zero. It doesn't mean like a little bit or that. So I was going about my day, and I caught myself thinking, I don't know how I'm going to pay my gas bill. And it was such a fleeting thought. It had come and gone before I really had realized it was there. And I sort of carried on for a little bit. And I thought, hold on a second. If I'm doing zero tolerance, I'm doing zero tolerance. And I sat down and I changed my state. So the don't wait for and there was no negative feeling. It was just the
Mm-hmm.
thought. So don't wait for the negative feelings, or don't wait for the feelings to get stronger. It's the tiniest, uh, as soon as you notice it, and it's about becoming hyper vigilant.
Well, I know for myself, and I know that we've talked about zero tolerance before. I know that what has what happens for me, what has what has kind of been that pattern in the past, is that I would have the negative thought or feeling, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? I can just power through this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that big of a
Yes.
deal. I'm busy working on something else, or I'm engaged in doing something else, and those negative thoughts or feelings are there, and they get rolling. There's a
Mm-hmm.
momentum that gets rolling behind that, and then before I know it, I'm into a negative. I'm into a negative mood. I'm into a funk, and I've fallen into the well.
Right.
And then it's a lot more difficult to get yourself out of that. So it I think there's that belief system that I can wait just a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I can put
Don't
it
wait.
off. You know, it's like, okay, I know those negative thoughts or feelings are there. I'll deal with it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really, really like your analogy of jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
There is no little bit of jumping out of an
Right.
airplane. I
Yeah.
can't. You're either committed
Yeah.
or you're not. You're
So
either in
that's
the
where,
plane or you're not.
right, and that's where zero tolerance comes in. So it's not just a little bit.
And I think that using the word zero tolerance, I mean, it's exactly what it is that we need to apply to this. But what ends up happening is I think that zero tolerance is used in the bigger culture out there, and it's sort of lost a little bit of its meaning. For me, it's kind of like thinking about a fire drill.
Yeah.
And I know that we talked about this earlier, but if you can think about pulling yourself out of a negative thought or feeling, like responding to a fire alarm going off. Now, I know that I have been in a situation, I've been in situations like I've been in a high-rise hotel. I've been on the 22nd floor of a high-rise hotel, and the fire alarm goes off, and I'm laying there in bed going, yeah, right, I don't know. Do I feel like getting out and putting my clothes on? Is this just a false alarm? It's probably a false alarm. Right. We lull ourselves into thinking that it's okay, or I just don't feel like doing this right now. But once you have the negative thought or feeling, even in the smallest amount, you're already down the path of chasing.
You're standing at the airplane door.
No.
So you need to catch it straight away before you jump, before it gets stronger.
Yeah.
So the other analogy is house training a puppy. You know, so because this is as well, it's important not to fight it. So it's important not to, I've got to stop feeling bad, because as you're doing that, you're pumping more stress chemicals.
Oh, here I go again. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to treat it. So rather than wrestling with it, treat it as like a fire drill. It's the alarm's gone off, and now I'm going to leave the building. So, and the action to take is, if you can, do something physical, because physical activity is very powerful, very effective. So if you can, go for a walk, go for a run. A great thing to do is go for a walk and listen to an uplifting audiobook or music you love. Watch some comedy, listen to music that you enjoy, dance if you can. Now, it's important to realize you will not feel like doing this, most likely. So and the longer you've been feeling triggered, the less likely you are to want to pull to want to do something that's going to pull you out. So the earlier you catch it, the easier it is. But if I know for me, it used to be irritation. So especially with technology. So I would be trying to get something done on the computer, and I'd feel myself starting to feel irritated because whatever it wasn't working. And I knew I should walk away, but I just couldn't. I'll just get, if this can just work, I'll just get this done first. And there's that compulsion. And of course, the more I did that, the more the chemicals got pumped into my bloodstream, and the more irritated I got, and the more difficult it was. When I was able to start recognizing it and going, right, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to watch some comedy. It was hard to do, hard to pull myself away, but I knew. And then I would come back and everything would be fine. It would all work perfectly, because the prefrontal cortex of the brain comes back online. So like house training a puppy as well, you don't want to be beating the puppy. So just pick it up, take it outside. So rather than struggling with it.
I think in terms of the action plan, in terms of engaging in using zero tolerance, you really need to be intentional about making the decision that I'm going to do this. Yeah. And it's not really you can't really do it halfway. Or if you think about the analogy of house training a puppy dog, you can't do that halfway either. You can.
And it won't be effective.
You can, but you're going to end up with cleaning up messes all the time. But if you commit to going right every time that I notice that it looks like the puppy needs to go outside, I'm going to go and make that happen right now.
And you've got to become hyper vigilant. You
got to anticipate and have a plan ready in place, ready to go when you feel that initial feeling of something coming on,
or the thought.
Right. So we've talked about this before. We've used this analogy before about, the fire drill, but you really do need to have a plan in place. Yeah. And you want to say, okay, when I start to feel these things, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to have this music queued up. I'm going to have these videos that I can watch, whatever is going to redirect your focus and pull yourself out of that moment. But do it in a way that you're treating yourself like you would treat that little puppy dog in the process of house training.
Right.
Nobody likes anybody that beats a puppy dog. So don't beat yourself up in the process of trying to do this. It's just noticing that this feeling, this thought is here, and it's like, okay, and now it's just time to do this.
Right.
And just moving that focus to something else.
Because the compulsion is to keep thinking the thought, because we have that drive to try and find a solution for it. So, for example, if it's like, this person hasn't got back to me, or I don't have money, or I won't, I don't know if I'll find a job, whatever those thoughts are, as soon as they come up, the compulsion is to continue thinking them because you're looking for a solution. The problem is that as the stress chemicals enter your bloodstream, the prefrontal cortex of your brain starts to shut down, and you won't find a solution while you're in that state. So it's counterintuitive, but it's important to catch it early. Go, tell yourself, I'll come back to it later, but right now I'm going to do whatever it takes to feel good first. Then I'll come back, and then you'll be able to be more strategic, and you'll be able to find solutions and options that you hadn't thought of, because that part of your brain will be back online.
Right.
So the key is catch it as soon, don't wait for the puppy to start peeing on the floor before you pick it up. As soon as it looks like it's going to pee on the floor, pick it up and put it outside, which means the slightest negative thought, even if there's no feeling yet, or the slightest feeling, whatever it is, straight away redirect until you feel good, and then you can always come back and do the strategizing, problem solving. Right.
And other things that we teach, that will support this and help this, check out some of our other work, some of our other videos on our ESC program, the Emotional State Conditioning Program, because that's a measure that you can be actively practicing on a daily basis to get yourself into a higher emotional state quicker. And it's also building your awareness muscle, is what I like to call it. You're building that awareness of being aware of what's happening in your brain and body on a more of a moment-to-moment basis.
And your emotional stamina. And actually, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'm going to tell them.
What are you going to tell?
At the moment, we are creating a very exciting new course that's going to teach ESC in a very fun way. And we're in the middle of doing that now. It should be available somewhere like the first or second week of April. So we'll tell you more about that when it's ready.
And of course, engaging in looking for those original triggers that are causing the negative thoughts and feelings in the first place. So other videos, other information regarding changing childhood memories, going back and changing those earlier references that are causing those thoughts. But the time to do that is not
Yes.
when you're feeling yourself in the trigger, in the middle of the negative feeling. You want to get yourself out of the negative feelings first, and then go back and look for that.
Right. All right. I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hope everybody has a great week, and we will see you all again next time.